What would you do for the one who saved you? In the sleepy town of Willow Creek, nestled in Montana's rugged hills, the air carried the scent of pine and sorrow. Amos Reed, 68, a retired park ranger with a weathered face and kind eyes, was a legend here. For decades, he patrolled the Bitterroot Forest, rescuing lost hikers and wounded animals, his heart as vast as the wilderness he loved. Amos lived alone in a cedar cabin, his only company a stray dog he'd named Scout, a scruffy mo with a limp and a loyal heart. Every dawn, Amos drove his beat-up truck to check the forest trails, Scout curled up in the passenger seat, ears perked. But today, the town was quiet, its people gathering for a reason no one wanted to name. A faint bark echoed from the forest's edge, where Scout sat by Amos's truck, his amber eyes searching. The townsfolk whispered, their faces heavy. Amos was gone. What brought Scout here, and what's he looking for? Can one life change a forest? Amos had been Willow Creek's heartbeat, a man who'd faced grizzlies to save a trapped fawn, who'd carried injured campers miles to safety. His hands, rough as bark, had bandaged Scout's leg years ago when he found the dog caught in a poacher's snare. That act of kindness had bound them, man and mutt, through countless patrols. Now, the town square was draped in grief. Amos had collapsed on his last patrol, checking a trail where poachers had been spotted. His heart, worn from years of service, gave out under the pines. Scout had been with him, barking desperately until help arrived. Too late. The townsfolk planned a funeral at the forest's edge, per Amos's wishes. Scout lingered by the truck, refusing to leave, his whines cutting through the dusk. Why won't Scout leave the truck, and what does he know? What does loyalty look like in the face of loss? Scout's fur was matted, his limp more pronounced as he paced by Amos's truck, parked near the ranger station. Clara, a young ranger who'd learned everything from Amos, knelt beside him, her eyes red. "He's gone, buddy," she whispered, but Scout's gaze stayed fixed on the forest, as if waiting. Clara remembered Amos's stories, how Scout, once a starving stray, had followed him for miles after being freed, never leaving his side. The dog's loyalty was a mirror of Amos's own, a bond forged in the wild. But now, with Amos gone, Scout seemed lost, his whines a quiet plea. A faint rustle came from the trees, too soft for human ears, but enough to make Scout's ears twitch. What's calling Scout into the forest? Can a hero's final act echo beyond his life? Flashback to 2 days ago. Amos and Scout trekked a remote trail. Amos's breath heavy, his heart pills forgotten in his rush. Poacher signs, fresh tire tracks, a broken snare, had drawn him out despite the heat. Scout's nose twitched, sensing danger, but Amos pressed on, his duty stronger than his pain. He'd found a wounded deer, its leg caught in a trap. As Amos freed it, his chest tightened, a sharp pain stealing his breath. Scout barked, circling frantically as Amos sank to his knees, whispering, "Stay strong, boy." Clara and Ranger Tom found them, but Amos's eyes had already closed, his hand on Scout's fur. Back in the present, Clara watched Scout, his gaze still on the forest. What did Amos see that day, and why is Scout so restless? How do you say goodbye to a legend? Willow Creek's town hall buzzed with mourners, planning Amos's funeral. Clara, 28, with a scar on her cheek from a climbing accident Amos had saved her from, took charge. She clutched Amos's old ranger hat, her voice steady but thick. He wanted it simple under the pines. Tom, a gruff ranger who'd worked with Amos for years, hung his head. "He was the best of us," he said, his hands trembling. Scout lay outside, his whines a constant reminder of the loss. The town agreed to hold a funeral at the forest's edge, a place Amos loved. But Scout's sudden bark interrupted, sharp and urgent, his eyes fixed on a shadow in the trees. What's stirring in the forest, and will it disrupt the farewell? What lurks in the heart of the wild? As Clara finalized the funeral plans, a ranger reported fresh poacher tracks near the trail where Amos died. Her heart sank. Amos had been hunting a poaching ring, led by a man known only as a ghost, who'd evaded capture for years. Had Amos's last patrol been too close to their secrets? Scout growled, his hackles raised, staring at the forest. Clara knelt, noticing a scrap of cloth caught in his collar. A poacher's mark, torn in a struggle. Her mind raced. Had Scout seen something that day? She tucked the cloth away, her instincts flaring. A low engine rumble echoed from the woods, distant but ominous. Are the poachers watching, and what do they want? Can a town honor a hero under threat? The morning of the funeral dawned cool, the forest mist curling around Willow Creek's pines. A wooden platform was set at the trailhead, Amos's body resting on it, draped in a ranger's blanket. Clara placed his hat beside him, her fingers lingering, memories flooding back. Amos teaching her to track, to listen to the forest. Tom lit a fire, its smoke rising in a traditional send-off, while townsfolk gathered, their faces etched with loss. Scout sat by the platform, his eyes never leaving Amos, his tail still. But Clara noticed fresh tire tracks near the trail, too close to the ceremony. Scout's ears perked, a low growl rumbling. Is danger closing in on Amos's farewell? What brings a dog to a human's goodbye? As the townsfolk sang a hymn, a sharp bark cut through the air. Scout stood, limping toward the platform, his eyes fixed on Amos. The crowd parted, some gasping, others stepping back. As the dog pushed through, his fur bristling but his steps deliberate. Clara froze, her hand on Tom's arm. "It's Scout," she whispered. The dog reached the platform, circling it slowly, then sat at Amos's feet, his head bowed. It was as if he understood, his presence a silent tribute that silenced the crowd. A rustle in the bushes made Scout's head snap up, his growl low. Why is Scout here, and what's he guarding? What binds a man and a dog forever? Flashback to 4 years ago. Amos found Scout, a starving pup caught in a snare, his leg bleeding. Poachers had left him to die, but Amos knelt, his hands gentle, cutting the wire. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" he'd said, bandaging the wound, his voice a lifeline. Scout followed Amos home, limping but loyal, never leaving his side. They became a team, patrolling trails, sniffing out traps. Amos called him Scout, because you always find a way. That bond, forged in pain, now brought Scout to the funeral, his eyes full of grief. Back at the platform, Scout whined, nudging Amos's hand. Clara's eyes welled. Scout remembered. What will Scout do to honor his savior? Can a funeral withstand a hidden enemy? As the hymn faded, a distant gunshot echoed, startling the crowd. Clara's hand went to her radio, her voice sharp. "Tom, check the perimeter." Scout's growl deepened, his body tense, eyes locked on the forest. The poachers were near, their presence a dark shadow over the ceremony. Tom returned, his face grim. Fresh tracks, armed men. They're circling. Clara's heart raced. Amos had been close to exposing the ghost ring, and now they wanted revenge. She glanced at Scout, who stood like a sentinel, his loyalty unwavering. The crowd whispered, fear spreading. Will the poachers strike, or can Scout and the Rangers protect the funeral? What does a dog's heart know? Scout's growl turned to a bark, sharp and commanding, as he stepped in front of the platform. The crowd held its breath, watching the scruffy mutt face the unseen threat. Clara remembered Amos's words. Scout's got a nose for trouble. Was he sensing the poachers now? Tom radioed for backup, but the nearest Rangers were miles away. Clara knelt beside Scout, her hand on his fur. "What is it, boy?" she whispered. Scout's eyes flicked to a trail leading deep into the forest, the same one where Amos had died. A twig snapped, and a shadow moved in the trees. Is Scout leading them to danger or salvation? Can a dog outrun a killer? Scout bolted toward the trail, his limp barely slowing him, barking fiercely. Clara and Tom followed, guns drawn, their boots pounding the dirt. The crowd stayed back, phones out, live streaming the chaos. The forest closed in, pines casting long shadows, the air thick with tension. Clara spotted a figure, a man in camo, rifle raised, disappearing into the brush. "Poacher!" she shouted, her heart racing. Scout's barks led them deeper, his nose low, tracking a scent only he knew. Amos had taught him to find traps, but this was different. This was personal. The trail narrowed, the ground muddy, slowing their chase. Will Scout catch the poacher, or lead them into a trap? What secrets lie in the forest's heart? Scout stopped at a clearing, pawing at a pile of leaves. Clara and Tom caught up breathless as Scout uncovered a metal box buried in the dirt. Clara pried it open, revealing maps, cash, and a ledger, Amos's evidence against the ghost's poaching ring. Her hand shook as she read names, dates, locations, proof of a network selling endangered animal parts. Amos had been building this case, risking everything. Scout whined, nudging the box, as if urging her to act. "You knew, didn't you?" Clara whispered, her eyes on the dog, a rifle cocked behind them, the poacher stepping out, his face scarred. Has Scout led them to victory or doom? Who is the enemy in the shadows? The poacher, the ghost, grinned, his rifle aimed at Clara. "Amos thought he could stop me," he said, his voice cold. "You're next." Scout growled, teeth bared, standing between Clara and the gun. Tom raised his weapon, but the ghost was faster, his finger on the trigger. Clara's mind raced. She'd trained with Amos, learned his courage. "You're done," she said, stalling, clutching the ledger. Scout lunged, snapping at the ghost's leg. By her a moment, she dove, grabbing the rifle's barrel, twisting away as Tom fired a warning shot. The ghost stumbled, but his eyes promised revenge. Can they stop him before he escapes? What's the cost of fighting for a hero? Clara tackled the ghost, the ledger slipping to the ground. Scout barked, biting at his ankle, his loyalty fierce. Tom rushed in, cuffing the ghost's hands, but not before the poacher landed a punch, splitting Clara's lip. Blood dripped, but she stood, the ledger safe. "You can't win," the ghost spat, but Clara's smile was cold. Amos already did. She radioed for backup. The ledger's evidence enough to dismantle the ring. Scout sat by her, his eyes steady, as if Amos's spirit guided him. Sirens wailed in the distance, but the ghost's laugh chilled her. Is he hiding something bigger? Can a hero's farewell be saved? Clara and Tom dragged the ghost back to the funeral. Scout trotting ahead, the ledger clutched tight. The crowd gasped, their phones capturing the poacher's defeat. Clara laid the ledger on Amos's platform, whispering, "We got him, Amos." Scout whined, curling up beside the platform, his vigil unbroken. The ceremony resumed, the townsfolk singing louder, their grief now mixed with pride. Amos's fight wasn't over. His evidence would bring down the ring. Clara's eyes welled, her scar a reminder of Amos's lessons. Courage, always. But a new sound echoed, a low hum, like an engine from the forest. Is the danger truly gone? What happens when the enemy isn't alone? A black SUV roared into the clearing. Two men jumping out, guns drawn. "Where's the ledger?" one shouted, his voice sharp. Clara's heart sank. The ghost wasn't the mastermind. He was a pawn. Scout growled, his limp forgotten, standing guard over Amos's body. Tom pushed Clara behind the platform, returning fire. The crowd scattered, screaming, but Scout held his ground, barking fiercely. Clara clutched the ledger, her mind racing. Amos had died for this, and she wouldn't let it go. The men advanced, their shots splintering the platform. Can Scout and the Rangers protect Amos's legacy? Can a small dog face a giant? Scout lunged at the lead gunman, teeth sinking into his arm. The man yelped, dropping his gun, and Clara seized it, her hand shaking but steady. "Back off!" she shouted, firing a warning shot. Tom tackled the second man, cuffs snapping on, but the leader scrambled up, grabbing the ledger. Scout chased, his barks echoing, tripping the man in the grass. Clara ran, snatching the ledger back, her heart pounding. The crowd rallied, their phones live streaming, their voices a shield. Scout stood over the man, growling, a tiny warrior. Sirens blared closer, backup arriving. Will Scout's courage turn tide? Who's the true enemy behind the mask? The cuffed men revealed the mastermind, a local businessman, Mr. Hargrove, who'd funded the poaching ring for profit. Clara's jaw dropped. Hargrove had attended Amos's funeral, shaking hands, feigning grief. The ledger named him, his empire built on blood. Scout sat by the platform, his eyes on Amos, as if guarding the truth. Clara handed the ledger to the sheriff, her voice firm. Hargrove's finished. The crowd cheered, their phones spreading the news. the video going viral. But Hargrove was still out there, his SUV gone. Is the fight over, or has it just begun? Can a town say goodbye in peace? The funeral resumed under the pines. Amos's body laid on the platform. Scout at his side. Clara spoke, her voice breaking. Amos taught us to fight for what's right. This is his victory. The crowd sang, their voices rising, a tribute to their hero. Tom placed a pine branch on Amos's chest, a ranger's farewell. Scout whined, nudging Amos's hand one last time, his loyalty a knife to every heart. The townsfolk wept, their grief now a fire resolve. A distant engine hum faded, Hargrove's men retreating. Is Amos's legacy safe now? What does it mean to rest in the wild? The townsfolk carried Amos's platform to a clearing, a grassy spot by a creek where he'd love to sit. They dug a grave, Scout watching, his eyes never leaving Amos. Clara placed his ranger hat in the earth, whispering, "Rest, Amos." Tom carved a stone with Amos's name, marking 40 years of service. The crowd stood silent, their hands joined as the sun dipped, painting the sky gold. Scout lay by the grave, his body still, his heart heavy. A rustle in the grass made Clara turn, her hand on her gun. Is Hargrove back for revenge? What does a dog do when his savior is gone? Scout stood, his growl low, but was only a deer grazing nearby. Clara relaxed, her hand dropping. Scout returned to the grave, lying down, his eyes fixed on the stone. The townsfolk left, their whispers soft, leaving Scout alone under the stars. Clara stayed, watching from a distance. "He won't leave," she said to Tom, her voice thick. Scout's vigil was a story spreading fast. Posts on X, videos on TikTok, the dog's loyalty capturing hearts. But Clara sensed Scout's mission wasn't over. A faint light flickered in the forest, not a star, but flashlight. What's Scout guarding now? Can a dog uncover what humans miss? Scout's nose twitched, and he bolted toward the light, Clara and Tom following. He stopped at a tree, pawing at the dirt, uncovering a small metal case. Clara opened it, finding a USB drive, Amos's final evidence, hidden before his death, naming Hargrove's partners across the state. Her heart raced. Amos had known he was close to death, had planned for Scout to find this. "You clever man," she whispered, stroking Scout's fur. The dog's eyes gleamed, as if Amos's spirit guided him. The flashlight moved closer, a figure approaching. Is it Hargrove or a new ally? Can a dog face the ultimate threat? The figure was Hargrove, his face twisted, a gun in hand. "You should have left it alone," he snarled. Clara raised her weapon, but Scout lunged, knocking Hargrove down, the gun flying. Clara cuffed him, her hand steady, the USB drive safe. Tom called the sheriff, the sirens closing in. Scout stood over Hargrove, growling, his limp forgotten. The townsfolk, alerted by the noise, returned, their phones capturing the scene, the video destined to go viral. Hargrove's eyes burned with hate, but Clara smiled. Amos won. Is this the end of the fight? What happens when a hero's truth spreads? Hargrove's arrested Willow Creek like a storm, his network exposed by the USB drive. The town rallied, forming a conservation group in Amos's name, vowing to protect the Bitterroot. Clara led, her scar badge of courage, Scout always at her side. Posts on X exploded, Scout's vigil and Hargrove's takedown trending worldwide. Clara watched the videos, her eyes wet. Amos's legacy was alive, his fight carried on by a town he'd saved. Scout's loyalty had sparked a movement. But a new letter arrived and signed with a single line, "The ring's not dead." What's next for Scout and Clara? Can a dog lead a revolution? Clara sat with Tom, the letter in hand, Scout asleep by the fire. The USB drive named a larger network, stretching beyond Montana. "Amos knew," Clara said. "He left this for us." Scout's ears twitched, as if agreeing his role as guardian clear. They planned to share the evidence with the FBI, but Clara knew the danger. Hargrove's partners were powerful, their reach long. She looked at Scout, his amber eyes steady. "We'll finish it, boy," she said, her voice firm. A knock at the door startled them. A shadow outside. Is it friend or foe? Who stands with you in the dark? The door opened to reveal Lila, a journalist who'd covered Amos's story. I got your message, she said, holding a laptop. The drive's data, it's bigger than Hargrove. She showed files linking the ring to a senator, a bombshell that could shake the state. Clara hesitated. Lila was an outsider, but her passion for truth matched Amos's. Scout sniffed her, then sat his approval clear. He trusts you, Clara said, smiling. They formed a plan. Leak the files, protect the forest, honor Amos. But the letter's warning lingered. Is the senator watching them? Can a small town fight a giant? Clara, Tom, and Lila met in secret, uploading the files to a secure site, the story breaking online. The senator's name trended, protests erupting, Willow Creek at the center. Scout stood guard, his Barts alerting them to a car outside, men in suits, the senator's enforcers. Clara grabbed her gun, Tom at her side, as Scout growled, ready to fight. The men pounded the door, but the town arrived, their trucks blocking the road, their voices a shield. Scout's barks rallied them, a tiny hero leading the charge. The enforcers fled, the story viral, the senator exposed. Is the battle won, or just begun? What does a hero leave behind? The senator's arrest rocked the nation. The poaching ring dismantled, Willow Creek a symbol of resistance. Clara led the Amos Reed Conservation Group, protecting the forest, Scout her constant companion. The town rebuilt, stronger, united, Amos's grave a pilgrimage site. Scout returned to the grave daily, lying by the stone, his vigil a quiet promise. Clara watched, her heart full. You kept us going, Amos, she said, placing a pine branch. The videos of Scout's loyalty spread, millions sharing his story. But a new file surfaced on Lila's laptop, hinting at a global network. What's Scout's next mission? What if a dog's loyalty changes the world? Clara found a chip in Scout's old collar, planted by Amos, containing a video, Amos's final message, detailing the global ring and his hope for Scout to carry it forward. You're my eyes, boy, Amos said, his voice warm. Scout's vigil wasn't just grief. It was a mission, leading Clara to the truth. The chip's data sparked an international investigation. Scout's story inspiring activists worldwide. Clara and Tom trained new rangers. Scout at their side, a guardian of Amos's dream. Willow Creek became a beacon, its forest safe, its hero eternal. As Scout lay by the grave, Clara smiled. We're not done, buddy. Have you ever seen loyalty that changed everything? Share your story below.